Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with a inspirational video for Scrapping for Less and their September 2019 Flavor of the Month card kit. And September's theme is Fall is Coming. So right off the bat, and I'm actually going to be showing everything. Now, I didn't do a reveal only because of the time frame that I am launching this video. So I'm sure there are other reveals available for you. So within the kit, you got some of these pre-printed cards. So I took one of those. I'm going to trim off the sides. I'm then going to take my craft knife, cut out the center, and then come in with my scissors to cut around the edge of the leaf. One of the things that I love about some of the papers that are throughout the kit or in one of the collections is it looks like it's a knitted sweater. Even though there's florals and backgrounds, they just look like a knitted sweater. So I thought that was really, really cool. So I'm just continuing to use my craft knife to cut around the edge of this leaf. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to turn this into a shaker card. So I started using the craft knife, but I like to be able to move in a curve. So I found that to be easier with my scissors. And then just cutting out each of the sections. And I could use my scissors for the larger areas. Use my craft knife for the smaller ones. It's not a perfect cut, but that's okay. I'm going to show you how we're going to cover that up. So now that's done, I'm going to grab my liquid adhesive and a piece of acetate, and I'm just going to apply that around the leaf. And then once my acetate is in place, I am then going to trim that around the sides. And I probably should have cut that before applying it to the card. Just saying. So once that's done, I wanted to, because my background, the two papers that I chose are even though they're deep, they're very fall-like. So it's really not white. I mean, there's some white within that pattern paper there, but I really wanted to just tone down this white. I didn't want to use vintage photo. I know, surprising. But I actually wanted to pull out the colors that are sitting in the floral background. So the colors that I chose were Spice Marmalade. I then chose Abandoned Coral and then Dusty Concord. I'm using one of my makeup brushes to blend this across the paper. Now, a couple things are happening. One, these are blending as they should because they're oxide. And then it's also filling in around the edge of the leaf itself. So it's helping to make that just a little bit darker. To help cover that up. Now we're still going to do one more thing with that, so that we're going to help that. And what that is, I'm going to grab one of my colored pencils. Now the colored pencil that I grabbed is from Arteza, and it's the indigo color. And all I'm doing is just drawing around that edge and going on the inside a little bit just to create a border, just with the colored pencils. I didn't, since I had already put my acetate down, I didn't want to blend anything there. I didn't want to get a mini blender on that, because then I would have had to clean the acetate and it just would have been a mess. So just by using the colored pencil, it provides that border that's going to go around the card, around the image. Going to grab my double-sided foam tape. I'm going to double that up, and then I'm just going to start placing that around, making sure that the areas around the leaf are completely touching, so that the bits that I'm going to use to fill in my shaker are going to stay inside. So the bits that I'm using actually come from the kit, and they are a mixture, excuse me, of little tiny flowers and ladybugs. Now I wanted more flowers in there than the ladybugs, so I'm just going to pull out some of those ladybugs and add some more of the flowers in there. Now this embellishment mix is by Trinity Stamps. So, but it was really cute because, yeah, who doesn't love the mixes? Just saying. So with that, now you're going to see me make an awesome move here. So I take a piece of white cardstock so that I could back my image up. Did not like the white. So I'm going to peel this off. I know, everyone's like, no, it's okay. Again, it's paper. This one I knew I was going to destroy. This is a thinner weight paper that I use when I do my shakers. I do tend to make them separate so that I can mount them on my card base. So usually my backings are a lot thinner. So what I want to use is one of the pattern papers. So I really like this one with the light green floral or leaf design going on in the back. So that is what I'm going to use for my background. I think it looks a lot better. I think with this sitting on top of that green panel there that I have on the left, it's not going to be so, wah, I'm here, and just sticking out there. So the vintage photo, now you knew it was going to come in. Just going to go around the edges, that's all. And then I'm going to adhere this right onto that panel. I am going to make it a little bit crooked, and then I'm going to place this and also make that panel a little bit crooked as well, which will actually make the shaker straight onto the front of the card. I am going to place this onto my standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this one is a top folding card. I'm going to grab some of the enamel dots that were in the kit, and I'm just going to place one at each corner of the green panel around the shaker. So for our next two cards, you know, I let your paper, if you like pattern paper, if you like to use pattern paper, let your paper do the work. And sometimes it is perfect. Now I am using a sentiment, excuse me, from the Sunny Studios stamped called Scaredy Cat. I'm going to use my VersaFine ink, and I'm going to use my Brutus Monroe Raven Fine Detail Black embossing powder, and I'm going to heat set that. I am using a scrap piece of cardstock from my stash. I wanted a really, really bright green. So I've cut this panel down to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to adhere this right up onto my standard A2 size card base, and then I'm going to cut out my sentiment. I will trim my card base up just a little bit. Obviously, I went a little bit crooked. Does not matter. That's why we have scissors, just to make it even. I'm going to use my scissors to cut out my sentiment, and I will angle, or excuse me, create a fishtail for one side, and then I will add some double-sided foam squares to this sentiment and just place that down in the bottom right-hand corner. So this is one of the papers by Scrapping for Less. So for the next card, same thing. Let your paper do the work. I absolutely love that as a background. You can see you get these great iridescent stickers that are part of it. And you have these cutouts from the pattern paper. Again, let your pattern paper do the work for you. So I chose one of the images. I used my makeup brush just to go around the edge with some black soot. And now I'm going to place my stickers in place. So I knew this card was going to be a landscape card, only because of the size of the stickers and the Happy Halloween. It would have been tough to do that on a portrait. So I start with my center and I'm going to work out on each side. Next, I'm going to work after Happy is in place. Now I'm going to work and put Halloween in place. I'm also looking at where I'm going to put that panel that I've pulled and inked up. Because these, I mean, the letters aren't so big, but you know, Happy Halloween, there's a lot of letters going on there. And because of that, I didn't want to cut too much from the panel. I knew I was going to trim off the bottom, but I did want those side areas to stay on this panel and just have the black soot coming around. So I was going to keep it up underneath the letters, decided against that, so I grabbed my double-sided foam squares, propped that up, and then I'm going to add the stars and this one pumpkin coming out of the side. So there I am trimming up the edge just to make that even, and yes, doing something really stupid, cleaning off my scissors, because those scissors are awesomely sharp. They are wonderful, but yeah, lots of scars. So once I have that down on my panel, I'm going to grab some of the enamel dots that are in the kit, just to add a little bit of glitter to this card as well. So for the next card, I'm going to be using a stamp set by Paper Sweeties called Sweater Weather. I am going to grab my Ink on 3 fade out, and I'm going to stamp this image 3 times. Now, I'm going to use some alcohol markers. The alcohol markers I'm going to use are by Stampin' Up. So if you're someone that's on the fence of alcohol markers and you're not quite sure if you're going to like it, or maybe you think Copics are just too confusing, okay, that would be me. Copics confuse me to no end, and also they are at a very higher price point than your Stampin' Up markers would be. So if you're looking, I think they make it easy. You know, if the color is Night of Navy, you get a marker Night of Navy Light and you get a Night of Navy Dark. How can you mess that up? I think it's awesome. So that's all you have. You just have the 2 colors and you get beautiful blends. You can see here the colors that I'm using are Poppy Parade. I believe that's Poppy Parade. This is a peacock blue, and then the green is Old Olive. So I do like these because it's simplified, and these are at a lower price point as well. So all I'm doing is taking the light color, I'm going over the fade out ink, and then I'm coming in with my darker shade where I want the shading. I am not worried about where the light source is coming from. I never do, which I know is bad, but it's just me. I know. I don't want to teach you bad habits, but these are just the way that I work with alcohol markers. I am going to fussy cut these out, and then once I'm done fussy cutting them out, I am going to come back with my Memento marker, and you do want to make sure that it is a marker that is alcohol friendly, alcohol ink friendly. So that's definitely the Memento, and I'm just going to go around the edges of those just to give that finished look so that I don't see the white along the side of my images. I am also going to come in with one of my Arteza fine liner pens, and then just add some lines for the edge of the sweater around the arms and the neck so that I could create ridges. And again, just simple little squiggles, nothing too fancy, and that actually will help with the shading as well. So just very little touches. Again, nothing fancy, nothing too crazy. I'm then going to now line up my cardstock using both liquid adhesive and also double-sided foam tape. This panel I will prop up, and then you'll see that there's another panel that I'm going to pull in that I will use vintage photo on, just to tone it down a little bit, since it's a white piece of cardstock that I'm going to cut down. I'm only cutting this to be 2 inches wide. Shutting that window there in case you heard that, because of course awesome Harley bikes are out and I love them, but boy, they're loud. So I'm not sure if you heard that, so I apologize. So you can see I went around the edge with the vintage photo, and then I just went across the top, and that matches really well with the leaf panel that I have there. I'm going to grab one of the sentiments from the same stamp set where I got the sweater, and I'm going to use my Gina K amalgam ink to stamp this, and it says Sweater Weather. And then I will just place the 3 sweaters around that sentiment. I will do that using both my liquid adhesive and also my double-sided foam squares. So only one will go right down onto the card. The rest, I will prop those up. I do like dimension on my cards. I think it adds a lot to that, but by adding the dimension and texture, I just think it finishes the card. You don't have to. That's, you know, by all means, that's my preference. But something like simple as that can do a lot for your image. I'm going to take this panel, adhere it down onto my standard A2 size card base, which is now a side folding card. And once again, I'm going to grab some of the enamel dots that are in the kit just to add a little bit of accent. So for our last card, I am using a beautiful stamp set by Trinity Stamps, specifically for Scrapping for Less, called Thankful Floral. So I'm going to take this image and I am going to stamp it in each of the corners, top and bottom. So by making sure my stamp is set in one place and having the cardstock put in the same place again, I know it's going to be stamped, even though it's top and bottom, in the same exact spot. Does that make sense? Because that sounded really long. Wow. Whew. Okay, moving on. So now that we have the first one, I am using my Recollections Gold embossing powder. I've heat set that. Now I'm stamping my next image, again adding the embossing powder, making sure I have no strays, and then I'm going to heat set that as well. While I've got all of this out, I'm going to grab the sentiment that's on this stamp set, and it simply says Thankful. I'm going to have that go across the front, but on a little bit of an angle, of course. Going to prep that using my Ranger anti-static pouch, because I gave up. I used to have that EK Success tool. I gave up with it. I think moisture got into it, so I'm letting it dry out right now. Yes! That was my fault. Nothing wrong with the product. It was just my fault. So once that's all heat set, I'm then going to come in, because I wanted to add just a little bit of color. But I didn't want to add too much color. I wanted to keep it soft, because the papers that I chose, the papers were just absolutely beautiful. And it's by Scrapping for Less, and it's part of their fall foliage collection. So all I'm doing is I'm grabbing one colored pencil for each of the images. So meaning I'm grabbing a green for the leaves. I'm grabbing another green for the other green foliage. I'm going to grab the red for the berries. And then I'm going to grab a yellow-orange for the sunflower petals. And then finally I'm going to grab a brown for the center of the sunflowers itself. I'm only using one shade. I'm not doing any shading. This color is actually going in the crevice, where the shade would be, where it would be its darkest. That's where this one color is going. Okay, so that's what I was looking to do. You don't have to have multiple colors to give a shaded effect. By only using one colored pencil, I'm keeping it pastel, even though some of these colors are dark. Now, what I'm using right now is a colorless blender. Know that when you use a colorless blender over an embossed area, you will move, especially if it's a metallic, you're going to move that. All right, that's why the centers look somewhat gray-brown. Did I know that? Absolutely not. So that's why I'm explaining it to you now. So you can see you've got that grayish tone on the other side. It's the only thing that I'm coming up with. Because I used my colorless blender, put it on blank piece of paper, and there was nothing. So I believe it's actually moving, or it did move, the raised embossed areas, because I wasn't careful to go around them. I went right over it. So just a little note to self, don't do that. So these are the projects that we made. Again, this is just some more inspiration to get your kit from Scrapping for Less for September. Again, the theme is Fall is Coming. I do hope you enjoyed these projects. The products that I used will be listed down below, along with the links. And basically, I used all of the products from the kit. So the kit link will be down there. I'll have a link to sketches. I'll have a link to the downloads. I'll have a link to their blog and, of course, their shop. So I do encourage you to check that out. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below as well, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you so much for sticking around, taking the time to watch the video with me today. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe, ring the bell so you know the next video is live. Also, hit the thumbs up. I hope everyone's having a great day, but always remember what's most important for me. Always, be creative.